Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video we have a very big technical news story to discuss here on the Bitcoin chart because as you guys can see, last night Bitcoin tested and for the first time of what I think will be many breached $6,000, marking a yearly high and a return temporarily above one of the most important levels of resistance in all of Bitcoin technical analysis across the entire history of the cryptocurrency. This is definitely a moment that will go down in history as being one of the confirmations of the beginning of a Bitcoin bull market. But the question that we're going to be discussing in today's video is, are we starting that bull market now? Is Bitcoin about to get above $6,000 and start running and start taking off on that bull market and bull run that we've been discussing here for the last several months? Or are we going to have a correction and then see that rally happen a little bit after that? That's what we're going to be discussing in today's video, guys. There's a lot of different technicals that you're going to want to know about as it relates to $6,000 and as it relates to the strength of the bulls and the bears. So if you guys do enjoy today's video, definitely consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so you'll be updated every time we post a new video talking about Bitcoin news and cryptocurrency developments. So guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. The first thing that I'd like to discuss has to do with the overall trend itself and the fact that Bitcoin has been rallying here for quite some time. As we can see, Bitcoin has really in general been trending to the upside ever since about the 15th of December back over here at the end of 2018. Bitcoin's generally been trending to the upside. More specifically though, Bitcoin has actually been in an uptrend and a state of rallying since about February the 7th, February the 8th, 2019, and Bitcoin has just been continuing to rally and rally and rally all the way straight up to $6,000. And I want to give props to the bulls because the fact that we were able to move all the way from down here around $3,300 straight to $6,000 leads me to believe that the bulls understand that a Bitcoin bull market is coming. They understand that the fundamentals and the underlying intrinsic principles of Bitcoin, the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, everything that makes Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market is as strong as ever, and that Bitcoin has a very bright future. The fact that we've managed to go on this long of a rally and still manage to not actually have a pullback, defying the technical analysis even to a certain extent, for 90 days does actually indicate that the bulls are very strong. And one thing I want to point out is that the bulls actually broke bullish here out of this ascending, widening trading channel here over the last couple of hours. As we can see, about 16 hours ago or so, Bitcoin broke bullish out of this. And that's very interesting. I was expecting that maybe Bitcoin would sit up here and trade sideways for a little while and break bullish out of here and start testing 6K a couple days from now. Bitcoin has already done that. One thing I also want to point out, as you guys know, I discussed at length the news that we saw yesterday about Binance getting hacked. There's not really much to update you on with that in today's video, but right around that time that news broke, Bitcoin crashed, and from there, Bitcoin's actually started to rally again. I like to see that. I mentioned that in yesterday's video. I was talking about how Bitcoin had a very major bearish news story, and even such, Bitcoin didn't have a major downtrend. That's definitely a characteristic of a bull market. If you guys look back over here in the 2016-17 bull market, I was back over here. I was trading during this time quite a lot. If you remember to 2017, if you're in the market, one of the things that characterizes a bull market is the lack of response by the bears to bearish news. The bulls are in control just about no matter what, in the same way that in the 2018 bear market, the bears were in control just about no matter what. We could get all kinds of bullish news and it wouldn't really mean jack because we were in a bear market. And we're starting to transition from that state of bearishness, where bearish news means a lot and bullish news doesn't mean a whole lot, to a state of bullishness where bullish news means a lot and bearish news doesn't mean a whole lot. That is the state that I think all of us want to be in, especially those of us who don't short all that often, because Bitcoin is going to be rallying quite a bit here over these next couple of years. But guys, with all of the kind of theory crafting out of the way, and I want to go ahead and get into the actual technical analysis and talk about a couple of different things. One thing I want to mention is the level of $6,800, because in a couple of videos ago, I did have a subscriber in the comment section down below mention that $6,000 is not the real level of resistance. I believe they said that $6,700 is. I'm going to amend what they said to $6,800, and I'll show you why in a second, but they would be kind of right. What they said was that $6,000 was the psychological level, but the real level of resistance to test and perhaps use as confirmation for a new Bitcoin bull market would be, in fact, $6,700 in their words or $6,800 in my words. And I have a problem with that. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, I briefly talked about this. $6,000 is a major psychological level, which means it's a major level because all technical analysis is based on human psychology. But that being said, that doesn't mean that $6,800 is not important also. If we go down here into the 4-hourly chart and we look back into history, we're going to find that there is a lot of trading around that area right there around $6,800. Let's go ahead and look at this. If we look back to June of last year, what we will find is that $6,800 was the neckline of a very important chart formation over here, this inverse head and shoulders pattern. I remember this part of the market very vividly because we did a lot of technical analysis on this. This is when the channel was starting to pick back up as well. This is right around the time we launched CT2A over here. Actually, this was a couple months before that. We were seeing Bitcoin ETF news. We saw the ETF from the Gemini twins, the Winklevoss twins from Gemini, getting declined. There was a lot of interesting news going on over here, and one of the things that we noticed over here was that $6,800 was a remarkably important level of support and resistance. It was the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders pattern, and that's one of the first times that we actually saw it be very important. But if you look back in history also, there is a little bit of support on it back over here in April as well. But moving on into the future, we saw that Bitcoin was testing support right around this level right here in August. Likewise, we came down and we tested it as a level of resistance, which we inevitably broke through. Then we came down and tested it as support. If we continue moving on here, it was the absolute top for the market during pretty much all of September, October, and November. This is a pretty boring point in the market. I don't remember a whole lot from this simply because there wasn't much to talk about. But during this time, Bitcoin used this as a level of resistance very many times. Bitcoin did quite a lot. So guys, even though we've broken $6,000, kind of, I'll talk about that in a second. We've kind of broken $6,000. Even though we're testing $6,000, perhaps I should say, we're not necessarily out of the woods yet. If Bitcoin can get above $6,000 and stay there for several days, if Bitcoin can stay up there and close perhaps a weekly candlestick above that, that'd be a very good sign. For example, how we've seen Bitcoin close a weekly candlestick above the 50 WMA. That would be a very, very bullish sign. As you guys can see, we're above the 50 weekly moving average. We've pretty much got confirmation that a bull market is starting right now. We've pretty much got confirmation that we're not going to need that downtrend that we thought we were going to need before the bull market starts. We're pretty sure that the bull market's going to start this month, at least based on our technical analysis and also based on the state of the bulls and the bears. But for one of those last pieces of confirmation, what I would like to see is for Bitcoin to get above that $6,000 level on the daily chart and start closing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 daily candlesticks up there. If Bitcoin can do that, then that means that we have broken $6,000 decisively and that there's no arguing the fact that Bitcoin has finally gotten above that level. That is very important. But after Bitcoin gets above $6,000, there's one last confirmation that we could also call, and that would be $6,800. And guys, by the way, there's a lot of other trading going on in this level. So really, if you want to be precise on it, then a really good way to do this, a really good way to define this resistance would actually be to call everything between 6,000 and 6,800 a zone of support. We're looking at a very major zone of support with two major levels of resistance, in my opinion: $6,800 and, of course, $6,000 flat. How could we forget $6,000? Now, one thing I also want to point out has to do with the candlesticks, because I talked about in yesterday's video this shooting star candlestick that we saw on Bitcoin. And someone in the comments asked me, well, Jeb, what's the difference between an inverse hammer and a shooting star? So I'll go ahead and answer that really quickly. This right here is a shooting star, but if you see this type of candlestick show up at the bottom of a trend, let me see if I can find an example of this off the top of my head. I don't have one planned. Right over here, here's an example of an inverse hammer, kind of. This isn't a great example. If you see that similar candlestick, like right over here, called an inverse hammer, that typically forms at the bottom of a downtrend and signals a bullish reversal. So as we can see, it happened right down here, and then Bitcoin started a little run, whereas right over here where we are now, Bitcoin saw a shooting star because the same pattern showed up at the top of an uptrend, and that's typically a bearish reversal pattern. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because depending on where Bitcoin closes today, we may be seeing another shooting star. And guys, I'll be totally honest, Bitcoin has rallied for 90 days straight here. This is one of the longest rallies that Bitcoin has seen in several years, and it wouldn't be surprising if we did see some kind of downtrend. Now, it might not be giant. It might pull us all the way down to $5,300. May pull us down to $5,000. May not pull us that far at all. But I could very easily see Bitcoin not breaking through $6,000 just yet, then having a pullback with this shooting star forming to kind of confirm it, pulling back a little bit, letting the bulls recuperate, letting $6,000 kind of marinate, let the bears kind of tremble in their boots for a little while, and then Bitcoin can start rallying again. That being said, considering how bullish we are, considering how exuberant everyone is, it's also not out of the cards that Bitcoin is able to come up here and break straight through $6,000 and take off like a rocket ship, skipping the moon, going to the stars, as we've talked about in these last several weeks. Guys, I think that we're looking very bullish on Bitcoin, but we do also want to keep in mind that even when we're looking bullish on Bitcoin, even when Bitcoin has been running green this entire time, when our veins are pumping with Bitcoin and we're so very excited for the future of the cryptocurrency and the market itself, we have to remember our technical analysis. We also have to remember that Bitcoin sometimes will defy that technical analysis when it's very bullish like this. But that doesn't mean the technical analysis isn't important, because you don't know all the time when it's going to follow the TA and when it's not going to, when the market is going to do that. So Bitcoin does have a good chance of breaking through $6,000 and starting to head towards $6,800 right now. By the way, that bump and run reversal pattern that we talked about, the target for that is also right around $6,000, $6,800. So let me go ahead and show you that if I can get my chart set up correctly. That bump and run reversal pattern that we've talked about in these last couple of videos and in the last couple of weeks here, that has a target right up here around $6,700 to $6,800 as well. That's another potential reason that we may run up there. But before we wrap the video up, there are a couple more technical indicators I want to point out and talk about what might happen if Bitcoin breaks through 6K. If Bitcoin breaks through 6K, there is a lot of resistance in here. It's not just going to be smooth sailing all the way up to $6,800. That is not how these things work. Even though breaking $6,000 would be very, very big news, even though it would be very bullish for Bitcoin, that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods yet, because as you guys can see in this area over here, there is a lot of trading. One of the reasons that we were able to run so quickly from $4,000 all the way up to $6,000 was because there's no trading to stop us. There's nothing here. All of this is completely open. You have to go all the way back to 2 years ago in 2017 to find any kind of support or resistance over here. That's why it was so easy for us to run to $6,000. After we break through $6,000, of course, we're going to be stronger then than we are now because we just broke 6K. But we also have a lot more resistance to contend with. So if we break $6,000 here in these next couple of days, or even if we break it a month from now, it doesn't matter when. No matter what happens, when we break $6,000, there's going to be a lot of struggling to get all the way up to $6,800, which is why I wanted to find this as one of the last confirmations of a bull market. I think we've already got some very significant, meaningful confirmations of that bullishness, but before we go ahead and just call a bull market all the way, maybe it would be good to wait to $6,800. I'm pretty sure one's coming, but it's never a bad thing, guys, to have one more confirmation, so long as waiting for that one more confirmation doesn't actually stop you from getting in on the trade that you wanted to get in on. Moving on from there, I do want to talk about one more thing, and that is that Bitcoin does still find itself looking down the barrel of some RSI divergence. We talked about this in yesterday's video, and it's very important that we understand this. The 4-hourly chart, the daily chart right here, and of course also the hourly chart are all looking at RSI divergence. That would indicate that we're looking at some kind of top coming in pretty soon. Bitcoin doesn't necessarily have to follow that because, like I said, guys, we're in the exuberant rally right before a Bitcoin bull market kicks off. So sometimes those things will be ignored by people that are FOMOing into the market and just looking to buy up as much Bitcoin as they possibly can before the next bull market starts. Sometimes in situations like this, that technical analysis will be ignored. Sometimes that RSI divergence isn't going to be as important in situations like this as it may otherwise be, but it's important for you to know that one of the most powerful indicators that you can look at in technical analysis, RSI divergence, is calling bearishness right here. As you can see, we have an uptrend on the chart right there. We're seeing it on the 4-hourly chart as well on a slightly longer term time period. We see it on this entire rally right here. Uptrending level of resistance, downtrending level of resistance on the RSI. Same thing is still true on the daily chart as well. Downtrending level of resistance on the RSI on the daily chart, and an uptrending level of resistance on the chart itself. Keep that in mind, because even though that very well may be ignored here over these next couple of days, I do want you to remember that RSI divergence is a very powerful technical indicator. It's a very powerful signal, especially when the market's a little more neutral than it is right now and people are following their TA more closely. To wrap the video up, guys, I do want to bring up one more technical confirmation that we have briefly touched on here over these last couple of days. This is one of the ones that I use to define when a Bitcoin bull market starts. You guys know I look at a lot of them. I have a laundry list of different technical indicators I look at. Bitcoin has gotten above a lot of them. Bitcoin has checked a lot of those tick boxes, but one of them that I like to talk about and I like to mention would be the 60-ish level, about 56 to 60 level, depending on what chart you're looking at, on the weekly RSI for Bitcoin. If we go out to a longer term chart here, we will find that pretty much every single time Bitcoin is above this level on the RSI right here, all of this time period over here, when Bitcoin's above it, Bitcoin is in a bull market. And whenever Bitcoin is below this level, Bitcoin is in a bear market. As we can see right over here with 2018, Bitcoin was in the bear market for this time, and it was below this level. Bitcoin went all the way down to 29 on the weekly RSI. The last time that happened, you guessed it, was at the beginning of the last accumulation phase, and also following that, the last time it happened was at the beginning of this accumulation phase. And then following this accumulation phase in 2015, Bitcoin initially tested this as a level of resistance, rejected, broke through it, and that was one of the things that happened at the beginning of the bull market. Well, guess what's just happened, guys? As Bitcoin closed that weekly candlestick a couple days ago, and as Bitcoin continues to look green on this weekly candlestick, Bitcoin has broken 60 on the RSI out on the weekly chart and has given us another technical confirmation of a Bitcoin bull market. So guys, even though it's possible that Bitcoin has some kind of retracement here over these next couple of days, even though it's possible that Bitcoin doesn't necessarily just break straight through $6,000 like a lot of us were hoping, and by the way, that very well may happen, even though that's not necessarily going to happen, that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin is, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to crash. That doesn't mean Bitcoin is going back to set a new yearly low. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin has to fall all the way back down to where, to the 200 weekly moving average, for example. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin doesn't have a bull market coming. A lot of that just means that Bitcoin is cyclical. Markets move in cycles, and that Bitcoin's going to have a little bit of a pullback before it starts running again. Guys, I've talked about this in many videos. Bitcoin went to the moon in 2017. 2019 is going to say, forget the moon, we're going to the stars, because Bitcoin has a lot of upside that it has not yet tapped into. It was not able to take advantage of it in 2017 simply because the market wasn't developed enough. I was in the market back then. Bitcoin was simply not old enough to take advantage of so many of the underlying benefits that it has, so much of the advantage that it has over traditional currencies and over the banking system. It wasn't able to take advantage of that in 2017 simply because of how young it was. That's like a toddler trying to do differential calculus. It just isn't even possible, even if that toddler is Albert Einstein himself. It just isn't possible because of the age of the market, but we're getting there, guys. Bitcoin is moving in the right direction. Every day that passes is one day closer to all-time high. All you gotta do is be patient. All you gotta do is load up your bags if you're looking to go on that rocket ride with us. Of course, that's not financial advice. I have to throw that in there for legal reasons. But guys, I think very good things are going to be coming over this next year and into the next decade, to be totally honest. Of course, we're going to see bear markets, we're going to see bull markets. But in general, Bitcoin looks to be doing very well. I'm very much looking forward to the future of Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency market, blockchain, and this entire space that I've been so thankful as to make a big part of my life. And by the way, guys, we're approaching $20,000. We're approaching 20,000 subscribers. We're not quite back to $20,000 per Bitcoin yet, are we? We're getting close, though. We almost have a subscriber for every single dollar that Bitcoin was worth back over here. There's going to be a sale running on CT2A when we hit 20,000 subscribers. Guys, I am so very thankful for you. I'm very grateful for everything you guys do. You tune into the videos, you leave likes, you subscribe, you hit the comment section, you join CT2A sometimes. Really means a lot. I think we're going to have a lot of fun here over these next couple of years. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Tell me in the comment section down below one of two things. Do you think Bitcoin is going to break through $6,000 in the next 2 days or so and start moving on to a new rally? Or do you think Bitcoin is going to respect some of the technical indicators that I mentioned in today's video, have a little bit of a pullback, and then we'll start moving to the upside? Strictly speaking, if we're following the technical analysis, most of the TA says that we should reject off of $6,000 and come back up and test it a little while in the future. That's what the technical analysis says. Most times when Bitcoin is in a neutral market and FOMO and FUD aren't playing a part, Bitcoin is going to do exactly that in this situation. It's going to reject, and then it's going to go ahead and rally and move through that level of resistance in the future. Maybe we test it once or twice, maybe even 3 times, but eventually we get through it. But guys, like I said, you also have to keep in mind, the bulls are very exuberant right now. People are very excited right now. There are a lot of people buying long-term positions, so it would not surprise me in the slightest that if this little movement that's happened in the last 2 minutes is able to actually develop into something. As you can see, over the course of this video, Bitcoin has been gradually trending to the upside. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Leave it to Bitcoin to go ahead and have a gigantic rally here at the end of the video. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to leave this recording for about 5 minutes, and I'll go ahead and put a time lapse here if Bitcoin does anything. But if it doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the video up. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.